Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, Adam Caplan. We got breaking news. The Eagles have traded away, or they are in the process of, according to reports, trading away Bryce Huff. He is going to go to the 49ers. And if anybody's listening to both Adam and I over the last few weeks in this podcast, we would say trading Bryce Huff 1 year into such a big contract is going to be difficult, but not impossible. You just need to find the team with the money to be able to take some of that contract on. We'll talk about that in a second. And the correct scheme fit to make Bryce Huff work again and function correctly again. And Adam, we've mentioned the 49ers because of their scheme, because of their coaching staff, and Robert Saleh is back with them, but they already were running the wide nine even without him, and they needed some pass rush help. So you can say it's a little risky to trade a guy like Huff to inside the conference, but he had to. There was no reason to keep him at this point. You have to bite the bullet, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he wasn't going to be with the Eagles this season, Bryce Huff. Here's where it all started. It really started the combine. We were told they were shopping him there. They were shopping him for the draft. Now they could have done what we suggested. They could have just said, "Hey," to his agent, "Hey, until we could find a home, he's not going to come. We don't want him here." They could have just basically said, "Look, we're gonna keep him away from here. He has to agree to it. He could just, by the way, he could force Eagles hand to show up. And, unfortunately, if he would get hurt, they couldn't trade him because no one's going to take that. No one's going to take even any of the contracts. So
right.
They worked it out. They found the Niners, which is the team we suggested. But the secret sauce of this is actually, in fact, most people don't even know this. Robert Saleh most likely learned the wide nine from Chris Kusarek. Why do I say that? Chris Kusarek was the Jim Schwartz disciple. He started working for Schwartzy with the Lions in 2009, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got to the Niners 1 year before Robert Saleh. So I don't even know if Saleh knew him, but he was already running it. And the word around coaching was for Kusarek that the Niners beat the Eagles for Kusarek. The Niners got on him immediately. And I don't know who Schwartz's list was. Who did they wind up hiring? And was it the tight end's dad, the Eagles tight end the Eagles drafted in the 7th or something?
Yeah, I can't remember his name either, but yes.
Yeah. Chris Lewis, I don't know, but
Something like that.
The guy didn't last year very long. He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but the D-line coach did not last very long.
Yeah.
But Chris Kusarek is one of the top 2 or 3 D-line coaches in the league. He's back in the wide nine where he excelled. And as I said when the Eagles made this trade, I didn't know that he wouldn't be good without the wide nine. I got why they did it. He was an ascending edge rusher, young, 27 years old. Why wouldn't you sign this guy? But I think we all learned, HowieRoseman learned, when you're scheme specific, it might not work.
Yeah, and I think that's the big thing. I mean, when he was with Saleh at the Jets, and he kind of turned into an overnight sensation out of Memphis.
Yeah.
We had his coach on, who was Ryan Summerfield.
Ryan Summerfield.
Yeah, who was great, and he came on with us.
Memphis.
And we all thought at very least there would be something there, even if it wasn't the perfect scheme fit because of the metrics that showed you what his pass rush win rate was. But this is really a scheme issue. And Howie, I think if we were going to knock him a little bit, whether it's this guy, whether it's Devin White, who's a blitzing linebacker for a coordinator who doesn't blitz, whether it's Terrell Edmonds from 2 years ago, who never played in a Fangio style scheme while he was with the Steelers, it just didn't work because Vic wants stand up outside rushers, because the whole point of his scheme when he has his sim pressures going is you don't know if that guy is rushing or dropping. If you're down in a 3-point stance, which is where Huff really flourished as a situational pass rusher with the Jets, you're not dropping back into coverage from a 3-point stance. I mean, that's ridiculous. Nobody does that. So it just didn't work. And then there's the whole idea that he didn't show up in training camp against the run when they really were trying to see, could he handle the extra snaps? Could he defend the run? If you remember, the Eagles' run defense wasn't very good the first few weeks of the season. Then he, suffered an injury. So you're hitting it on the head. It just wasn't going to work. They won the Super Bowl because of guys like Nolan Smith and Jalix Hunt and Brandon Graham came back with one arm and played over
Josh Sweat.
and Josh Sweat, and Brandon
Yep.
Graham played with one arm over Bryce
Crazy.
Huff. So you already knew that that the situation was to be either trade him or you deal with it like you did with Bradbury. Now the difference is Bradbury last year, 1 year into that big contract, can't be moved because no one's going to agree to take on that money. He's an aging corner who flourished 1 year in the downside of his career. At least with Huff, Adam, you had a guy who just 2 years ago, as a situational pass rusher, had a really good year and was still young and played a position where you could throw him into the mix of pass rushers. That's the big difference here, is that you could find a trade partner for Huff because a team can see potential, whereas at this time last year, no one was going to do that for Bradbury.
Now, but the thing is, though, the Eagles' options were limited because he really has to be at hand in the dirt pass rusher.
True.
He's got to play in a wide 9. Now, the team they're it's not just the Niners and the Jets. There are other teams that run it, but most run it like the Eagles. By the way, the Eagles run some 9, but very little.
Yeah, I think the Falcons will probably start to with Ulbrich now as their defensive coordinator.
That's a good point, right? Yep. Raheem will, if Raheem Morris wants to run it, they'll run it, right? He's been running at 34, but by the way, in nickel you could run a wide 9. That's okay.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is Bryce Huff made his money as a wide 9 specialist, and that's it. I mean, he was a sub-package rusher, started a little bit in his final season, and look, it didn't work, and the Eagles found a team. They have to, as we said on the last show, if they trade him to the Niners, we know they're going to have to eat some of the money. They're going to, but the Niners are going to take on some of that salary, and it's kind of everybody wins. The Niners, who lost Drake Jackson again for the season. Drake Jackson was a second-round edge rusher. Let me. Did they actually release him? I got to look him up, but. Drake Jackson never worked out for the Niners, and they drafted Michael Williams, first rounder. Gross Matos has not worked out. He's more of a run stopper. Remember, at Penn State, he's an edge rusher. He's a run stopper now, and they just don't have the edge rush group. So that's a smart move by them. He's back in the scheme. Yep.
I tell you what, if you're the Niners, and I mean, we always work on hypotheticals in the offseason. If this guy, with the Eagles, it's if Drew Makuba really, transitions well to the spot, if whoever else they drafted trans well. But you already know you got a stud in Bosa. If Michael Williams out of Georgia is a halfway decent first-round pick and looks pretty good, and then you throw in and if you get Bryce Huff playing at the level he played at with the Jets, you're pretty good with your 3 pass rushers. That's what you're looking for. You'd love a 4th, like an interior guy, and I don't know if the kid they drafted in the second round, Collins, will give him that or what they're going to get. But the bottom line is the Niners needed a lot of defensive help. They lost a lot of guys this offseason, and this will theoretically, Hargrave is gone. This should theoretically, if it works out, make them more competitive because I know a lot of people are doubting them, but they still have a lot of talent, and they have an opportunity to bounce back.
Yeah, Drake Jackson, by the way, I was right. They cut him. He had a knee problem.
Crazy. He
failed their physical. He just never contributed, and they're kind of light. That makes sense from their standpoint. Now, from the Eagles' standpoint, it's one of these situations where, again, they could have taken this till August if the agent agreed. He would stay away until they found a home for him. They found one in late May. Great, good job by Howie, and good by John Lynch, the GM. John doesn't have personnel control, but he's the GM and has a lot of say. It's Kyle has final say, as I understand it, but they work great together, and they were able to work this out. So now we go back to the Eagles here, and it's Nolan Smith coming off the torn triceps. Was it triceps?
Yep, triceps.
Okay, Jalix Hunt, who's our guy on our, this has been our guy from day one. He played a little bit more than they wanted him to last year, and we're going to see if he's ready to be a full-time starter. Uche, who's trying to rebound after 2 disappointing years. Ojulari, who's immensely talented, hurt a lot. Powell Ryland, they don't know about yet. He's never played in the NFL. He was a 6th-round pick for a reason. There are some issues with length, explosiveness. Yes, he's put up major numbers, but he's never played in the NFL. He's a 6th-round pick. O'Shawn Mathis, who's a former Rams draftee, and Patrick Johnson's really a special teams player. So they need another guy. Whether Huff was here or not, they were going to need somebody because Huff, again, I would have bet the house he wouldn't have been here in September. They got rid of him now. Good for them. But They need another guy. They can't with Ojulari's injury history. Uche's been a disappointment for 2 seasons. Smith coming with major injury. By the way, he's only played well for 3/4 of 1 season. Okay, and Hunt has been put on the fast track because they ran out of players and he did great. And Jahad Campbell, he's coming off major surgery. He's going to be a hybrid player inside an edge. So they need another guy. Don't you agree?
I do. I just will say I think that things are going to probably unfold for them in a good time order. When you mentioned Jahad Campbell, by the time Nakobe Dean returns, maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season, we'll see. By that point, hopefully, if you're the Eagles, you're hoping Jahad Campbell has got on the field enough to get some good NFL experience so that if they don't need him next to Bond because Nakobe's coming back and play there, then you can use Campbell as a 3/4. So you're hoping Ojulari stays healthy because when he's healthy, he averages a half a sack a game. That's really good. It's 8.5 sacks a season. That's what you want from a guy like your number 3 rusher, right? So if you combine him with Campbell, I feel better about that. I'm really not factoring Josh Uche in until I see, because he had one good year and he just hasn't been effective. So
I agree. I would say this to add what you're saying. Okay, we don't know, but see, again, here's the problem. Campbell's a rookie. He's coming off surgery. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Nolan Smith coming off surgery.
You have a lot of question marks. No doubt.
That's my point. Like,
I agree.
Again, depth is never about how many players you have. It's about what you know you're getting. Yep. They don't know what they're getting from Uche. Okay, there's a reason why he's on a 1-year deal. Ojulari's terrific when he plays, but he's been hurt a majority of his career.
Right.
Hunt, we love what we saw. It's a great story. He's awesome, but he's not developed yet. And Smith kind of came out of nowhere with a very bad preseason and training camp, and by like week 5, you're like, oh my God, this is the guy they were drafting. Now, is he going to do? So there are major questions with this edge rusher.
Yeah,
let's be honest about it.
This is where BG's loss is felt, because BG, no matter what, has always been a reliable, and you saw that last year. Last year, he came in and played when they had the injury to.
It's incredible in his role. Now let's understand, he's not a full-time player, but
no, that's what we're talking about. They have their starters, right? They still need to develop and be better. But even if things were going wrong, you could play Brandon Graham more. And you would
fall back, right? Yeah, it's a great point. Right. Let me ask you this.
Now they don't have that. Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you on what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel confident if you're Howie and Joe Douglas and whoever else is in their front office, Alan Walking and the guys in the pro department who are, they're looking at pro tape and then they know the Eagles better than anyone. If you're them, do you feel confident and comfortable with the group that you have right now?
I think you're not comfortable. I think you're looking at it like this from a confidence level. I think your floor you're comfortable with, meaning like your starters are Hunt and Nolan Smith, and you've got veterans in Uche and Ojulari, and you drafted Campbell, but you're worried about that, right? Your ceiling could be very high. If just 2 of these guys, whether it's Uche, Ojulari, Campbell, right? 2 of those 3 give you a lot more than you're expecting. If Uche really bounced back, if Ojulari just stays healthy, he's talented. That's not the question. It's just staying healthy. Then you feel a whole lot better. So I think that they've armed themselves with enough to say, if things bounce our way correctly, on top of the fact that we have good interior rushers and Jalen Carter and Ajomo and Ty Robinson, we'll see him get into the mix, that you're just comfortable in general with a 4-man rush. But no, I mean, I definitely think you look at this and you're nervous a little bit about if you have injuries, right, at the edges. Like if you have more than one, you're really in trouble. If you have more than one, even in your depth, you're just asking your starters.
If they have one guy, you've moved Hunt, right?
Right.
We just gave you what the top generally team, just so people understand. Clubs generally dress 4 edge rushers. They won't dress 5. It has to be a special circumstance. It's generally 4, sometimes 3. And then if one of the tackles is edge rush ability, that's your 4th. So on your point, you've got Smith, Hunt, Ojulari, and Uche are your top 4. We'll see if Powell Ryland shows up and he makes a team.
Yep.
But on your point, if someone gets hurt, okay. Now again, it could. Now Campbell obviously could factor into that. We don't know yet. Okay, we don't know yet. They have to get there yet because he's got a lot of learning to do.
Right.
But if Hunt, Smith, Uche, or Ojulari gets hurt, you need a fourth. You don't know about Campbell yet because he's a rookie and he's coming off major surgery. Where are you going here?
Yeah, no, it's a really fair point, and that's the perils of the NFL. It's hard to be as good as you were each year, year after year. You can only do what you can do, and I think Howie has given himself options, but it's not 100%. It's not ironclad. I will say this: anybody who listens to the pod and feels to comment to say, "Well, our conversation that we're having right now is a reason that they shouldn't have gotten rid of Huff," I tell you, don't even write it because it's irrespective of the conversation. They were not going to play Bryce Huff. The coordinator showed you that. The coordinator played a one-armed DN in the Super Bowl just to deactivate and deactivated Huff because of it. He was not going to play, kind of like the way, even if he was healthy, Bradbury was not going to spend any time at corner last year, even if they had an injury or two there. Just out of the mind, out of sight, out of the conversation. You don't hang on to a guy just to play a guy that you don't want to play. That's not going to happen. So it's irrespective of the conversation.
Yeah, man. Huff was a healthy and active, by the way. You're right. I totally forgot about that. Wow. Jesus. Oh, he's right. But so just so folks know about the cash, just wanted to mention this. For his 1 year of play, which was not very good, he only played in 39% of the snaps, actually less than he did the year before. Yes, he wound up having wrist surgery, but he was a non-factor for the Eagles. He made $17.25 million for one season.
God bless him. Hey, yeah. God bless him. He made a lot of money, right? Because he didn't make a ton of money as a rookie on a rookie deal when he was doing well. So sometimes that stuff evens itself out. And I'll leave you on this. Two things. One,
very little.
Again, I feel like Howie handled a difficult situation with Bryce Huff. Well, we know Bryce Huff was disgruntled. He didn't come out and bash the organization. He didn't say anything, all that. I mean, he did during the season
interview, though.
Yeah, but I'm saying like he didn't go full TO on the team.
No. He did it, just so folks know, real quick. He did an interview. It was, I believe, with NJ.com. It was definitely with one of the Jet beat writers. It was a New Jersey paper. I thought it was NJ.com, but I might be mistaken. But anyway, and he basically was very critical of the way he was being used.
Right.
He was not happy. He didn't bash anyone in particular. He was hinting at Fangio.
Defending himself. Didn't you think he was more defending that he can still play more than criticizing?
Yes, that was part of it. But yeah, he didn't mention anyone by name, but he was obviously, his anger was towards Fangio because he wouldn't play him.
Right.
But he was upset. But my point was, dude, do this after the Super Bowl.
Agreed.
Why are you doing this interview? The timing was terrible. Why would you do this?
Right.
I just thought it was disrespectful when you're in a Super Bowl run. And thankfully for the Eagles' point, it never blew up.
Right.
I don't know how the hell I found it. You know what? It was one of these linked off Facebook. I'm like, oh, let me. It's a New Jersey paper, so I know it's real. I read it. I'm like, what? Oh boy, this could not be good. And it never blew up.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. And so Howie was able to get the job done. I mean, you didn't hear Howie say anything in the press conference that was inflammatory. In fact, he said something like, I think the chapter on his book is yet to be written. So he didn't. Obviously, you're going to say good things anyway when you're trying to trade a guy. But the point is, between the Goddard contract and this, it was handled smoothly. We know in the 2000s, there was stuff like this would blow up and get really ugly at times with different players. So handled it well. And then the second thing I want to point out, because I think it's important, is I think we talked about this in the last podcast. Him not being at OTAs very well could have been, and probably was, I'm not reporting it, but probably was the team saying, we can't have you getting injured at OTAs when we're trying to trade you. I imagine Bryce Huff knew of the situation because the money had to be worked out anyway. So I think we said this, don't look at a guy who's not at OTAs and just start throwing darts at the guy and he's being selfish. And no, he was probably told not to show up so that he wouldn't get hurt and negate any trade. So that's all
because he didn't want to be here and they didn't want him here. So it wasn't going to work. So they wound up giving him $17.25 million. Mm-hmm. Okay. For one season. It is what it is. It's a signing bonus plus his base salary from last season. They were able to move the my old friend Field Yates from ESPN said that basically they converted for the trade the $15.58 option bonus, and they converted to base salary, and the Niners are picking up a portion of it. Eagles will take on some of that,
right?
And then now I don't know what he was signed a 3-year deal, so the deal that he signed for 2026 had no guaranteed money. There's a $1 million roster bonus due the 5th day of the league year in 2026. So the Niners have to make a decision on that, unless they've ripped the deal up already. I don't know that. I haven't got the details yet, but his base salary is not guaranteed of $1.25 million. And he does have a $14.635 million non-guaranteed option bonus. The total cash is $17.1 million. He's not going to get it unless he becomes a stud this season. So,
right.
We'll see what kind of pick they get. You know, as we talk about this Friday afternoon, the trade's not completed, so we don't know what kind of pick the Eagles are going to get. But the cool thing is to move this along, they move some of the cash. It's all about cash. They move some of the cash. They'll save cap space, which is also very helpful. And certainly could use that. But the big deal from Jeffrey Lurie's standpoint, as GMs have told me, the first question is when they miss on a player, how much cash are we into for this player?
That's right.
They don't give a shit about. They're not going to. They're like, oh yeah, how much caps? They don't deal with the cap. They deal with cash.
Yeah,
that's the way it works. So
it works.
Yeah. So that's that, and we just detailed what the rotation looks like. And by the way, the Eagles don't know what the rotation is going to be like until they get through training camp because they got to learn about Ojulari. They got to see. You know, Huff is never played. It's not like he played 70% of the snaps. In fact, if you really look at his season, which was pretty fascinating after he was a healthy and active early in the season. You know, then his snap counts went way up. As a matter of fact, his first game that he played over 50% of the snaps was against Carolina. That game they almost lost, by the way, at home. And then it was 54%, 48, 34. And then, you know, basically what they were doing, they were rotating him. Playoffs, 32%, 24%, 53%, and 41%. And by the way, they never took him off special team, which is a surprise to me when he became a prominent edge rusher. Well, that's it. That's something I wasn't even think we were going to be talking about. I wonder if they'll take him off. Well, that we'll learn that when we get through training camp, probably midway. Okay, is he definitely going to be a starter? Right now, he definitely is, but the season doesn't start till September.
Right.
This is May. They have to get through the mandatory camp and training camp. And that's when we're going to know if he's definitely going to be a starter. So, which the odds are that he will be, but we're not there yet.
That is true. That is true. All right. I already have the next topic for our podcast. Next time we do a podcast.
Ooh, go ahead.
Why are Eagles fans on social media so intent on getting Kyle Pitts? Have you noticed that there is a huge there was a report that he was up for trade and there was so much, go get him, Howie. Howie's got him. The Eagles got him. Like, why? He has been in sort of an underwhelming player for a couple of years in Atlanta.
He also had a bad knee injury. Yeah. He's from here. It's cool. Good kid. Yeah. Unfortunately, his former college offense coordinator, Brian Johnson's no longer here.
Right. Not much of a blocker. I mean,
I know.
It already have a bunch of guys who can't block and catch.
Well, actually, it's funny. I remember seeing it on every social media platform pretty much in March because there was an issue like, are they going to extend his contract? Are they going to let him play it out? The Falcons are going to trade him. He wasn't traded during the draft. Like, why would you think he'd be traded now? This is completely different from Bryce Huff. Couldn't be more different. You know?
Right.
It's just one doesn't have to do with the other. Right. But just extrapolating. So right now, the Eagles have 7 tight ends, need 8. Obviously, they would cut someone if they were. I'm joking here. I just find it. I find it funny. Hey, I said, look, we've used this phrase for it. This will be our 8th year. I came up with this in 2018 with Howie in particular. You never say never with the Eagles. Things happen where you go, wow, didn't like when the AJ Brown trade happened. That was really cool. But the biggest you never know was when they told Slay they were going to cut him. 5 hours later, they extended his contract, gave him more guaranteed money. Yeah. That's why when it seems 1% chance, it becomes 100% chance with Howie. You don't know what he's thinking. He loved to make trades, but you know we're not dealing with Kyle Pitts now. But hey, Dallas Goedert's back. They moved Bryce Huff. All's well in Eaglesville. They found a team to take him, and good for the Niners. They got a guy who should do well for them, by the way. He fits in great. It's a win-win. It's funny. We talked over the years, so it seems like Howie got a little bit better than the other team got. I don't see that. Yes, agree. The Eagles moved some of his cash. That's great. But they also take it on cash, and they also paid him a lot of money last season. So it's not like they got him for $2 million and they traded him. No, not like that. I agree. They still moved him, and that's great.
Right. It's addition by subtraction for the Eagles. For the Niners, it's an addition. And the only thing subtracted is money. So it's that's fine because it's not even above market for them. So that's good. Win-win. I agree. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds. Be sure to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation.